All right, everybody. So you will notice our show will be starting here in a couple minutes, but as we were recording the show, big announcement came down. So
big boom.
Yeah, big boom. So we figured we need to go right back on and talk about this. So I wish I'd been paying attention to my phone more. But so number one quarterback in the country for 2022, Quinn Ewers out of the state of Texas has committed to Ohio State. So that is another huge get for Ohio State, and we're becoming QBU, baby.
Yeah, and Texas kids, the one thing they do, they know how to throw. So the kid's already coming in. I mean, of course, if he's the number one player in the country, number one quarterback in the country, the kid knows how to throw. But that's just amazing. Definitely he's got that pro style, pro size to him. He's not a little guy, so you love seeing that. Ryan Day,
6'3", 195.
Ryan Day's really trying to create QBU. That's amazing. I mean, just where a coach can take a program, and that's not a slight to Urban Meyer. I mean, Urban Meyer was a great coach, but Urban Meyer wasn't getting number one quarterbacks in the country.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's ridiculous now. Some of the stuff that they are pulling in their 22 class is now looking ridiculous. I mean,
21's looking ridiculous.
Yeah, it's Jesus.
They're just, this recruiting's gone to another level, and I mean, and there's a real possibility Heartline's going to take the number one receivers in 21 and 22.
Yeah. So,
and he already got 20.
Yeah. So, I mean, huge get for both Ryan Day and Corey Dennis. So, I mean, I know it is, I know everybody thinks it's all Ryan Day, and I mean, it probably is, but I mean, Corey Dennis, he gets to live in that legacy. I mean, he's going to be known as the quarterback coach that brought him in. So, I mean, just a huge get. I mean, he was committed to Texas. He decommitted a couple weeks ago. So, I mean, that's probably the final nail in the coffin to Tom Herman's career.
You would think so. And the top receiver, I believe he's a Texas guy too. So if he doesn't get him, then I think that's it for him.
Yeah. So, pretty pumped up, man.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know. That's like, and we've seen this with Ryan Day. I mean, of course you saw it with Urban, but when you're talking about quarterbacks now, it's like a different level.
And right now what's going on, because we grew up in an era where, the top players in the country, they always waited towards the end of, the cycle,
right.
The Tim Tebows and the different quarterbacks, they wanted to put the hat on, the all-star games and stuff like that. That stuff doesn't happen anymore. And, Ewers is going to come in here. I know some people are going to be nervous, if Texas hires a big time coach, and you're going to have to deal with that. If, they get a big time coach, you're going to have to fight off teams for him. I mean, you're going to be fighting off teams for this kid for the rest of the year, but he's going to come in. They're going to start recruiting. These kids like to get onto these programs early because they want to recruit. I mean, look what McCord's been doing, the
linebackers for 22, they're all working so hard. So yeah, that's the thing. I mean, if he goes all in for the Buckeyes, that's going to be really hard to pull him out of there because he's going to be recruiting so hard to get guys to come play with them.
Yeah. So just wanted to quickly jump on because we're pretty stoked about this. He's a huge addition. If the commitment ends up holding to a signature on paper, and I mean, Buckeyes are going to be
QBU
for the next several years. They're still going to be loaded. And, Ryan Day is starting to cement his legacy. Now he's starting to get to the point where, whenever after all the success he had last year, you always get nervous, was that with Urban's guys, and how does he now continue growing that? And I mean, you can't argue with it. He's just growing it like
right. Or worst case scenario, you get a log jam in the QB room, and then someone transfers off to LSU and has the greatest season in college football history.
So, and there is going to be a log jam now. I mean, we've already been kind of wondering about Miller and Stroud, because that's kind of seeming like whoever seems like is probably the odd man out of that too is probably gone. I mean, because you got now two legitimate studs coming in right behind it.
Yeah.
So it's gonna make everything interesting. But you know what? That's what you go out to. You go out to sign the best guy every year, and right now we're doing it. So
it's amazing. So all right, well, Now we're going to go into the show.
Yeah, so the show's going to start. So I hope you guys enjoy the show, but we just wanted to throw this in there. All right.
All right.
Welcome to episode 20, Buckeye Bar Guys. I'm Buckeye Bar Talk. I'm Mike.
And I'm John.
We made a first milestone here, 20 episodes.
20 episodes, yeah.
And we're still going. So
I think we had some unnumbered ones too, so we might actually be over 20.
Yeah, we're probably over 20. There is a couple. I think there's at least one. There's 2 special editions, and then I think
you did a quick video that wasn't numbered also. So.
Yeah, so it's actually 23, but
who's counting?
Yeah. So big show tonight. We're gonna discuss the upcoming game against Indiana and talk a little bit about some of the Big 10 games coming up this week, and then we'll finish it up with our 3 thoughts about the upcoming game, what the 3 things we want to see, and score predictions. So how you doing tonight, John?
I'm good. Weather's still a little chilly out there, but all in all, pretty good. Everything's hoping we get to see a Buckeyes game. I just realized I probably shouldn't have said that out loud. So knock on wood.
Yeah, knock on wood.
Yeah. So that's, as we know, COVID's kind of running crazy right now in Ohio.
Yeah. Franklin County today became the first Ohio county to go into the purple. So that was, as of now, the game is still on. Sounds like there's no issues as of Ohio State.
Well, there's no fans anyway.
Indiana.
So if you're going to play the high school games, you can always have everyone drive to Tiger Stadium in Massillon also. No one's in the stands anyways. Who cares?
God, could you imagine that? Buckeyes playing. Massillon's. And that's where all they announced because of Franklin County's issues, the lockdown there, the stay-at-home order, and then the going to purple. They were supposed to have the rest of the games. They had Division I last week, which St. X killed. Which Pickerton did they play? I don't remember now, but I think it was North. But
someone that got beat up really badly.
It was one of the Pickertons. I know that. So they beat them up pretty bad. And then the other 6 games are going to be this weekend, but so they can't have it in Franklin. And of course, up by where we're living,
come on over this way, Buckeyes.
So they're having the games up here, and
you can always go to Canton too.
God, wouldn't that be?
You can play on the Hall of Fame field. If there's not going to be fans in the stadium, they're nice enough fields.
And I kind of joked about that before the season started when we were going to have a season again. I think I was joking with Dad. I was just like, it's just a football field. They can play the damn game anywhere. If there's going to be no fans in the stadium, just put it on a high school field.
Bring it over here. Yeah. Who cares? But no, I'm good. Everything's looking good. So,
So hopefully the game goes off without a hitch. Right now, everything is sounding like we are a go. But
those cowards from Maryland, they lost another game.
Yeah. So in the world of, COVID pandemic, this is what we figured before the year. Stuff like this was probably going to happen, and so it's just hopefully safely can get a season finished here.
Yeah, I know it's hard to be thankful for just 3 games, but think where we were. You got to be happy that you've seen this many, and seems like there's still going to be more to come. So.
Yeah. All right. So before we get into the episode tonight, I did. We actually hit another 2 big networks that the show actually got put on, so we're pretty excited about that. We're now on iHeartRadio, which is the Clear Channel. Clear Channel. That's right. That's their stations where they put their radio stations. So we're on their podcast network, and we're on Pandora too. So that's pretty cool that been added. So
definitely, more exposure is better. So we're very appreciative that, we're going to more places, that we're on more networks.
Yeah. So we'll have those links in our show description to if that's where you listen to your podcast, either one of those, you can find us on there. So please subscribe. So tonight we'll get into here Indiana. So just just before we start really kind of maybe breaking down some of the players, I know we talked about it a little bit on the last episode, but your general thoughts so far of what you've seen of Indiana this year.
Well, first thought is, holy crap, we're playing Indiana for the Big Ten East.
Yeah.
Who would have ever thought that this would be the case? But Maryland is losing again. Like, this is for the Big Ten East this week. So wow, that's amazing. Now, thoughts on Indiana. Indiana has a really nice defense. They do a lot of different things. It's hard for teams to like kind of get their averages on Indiana, or they're right around their averages. So they do a lot of nice things on defense. They don't have so many like high end, high star players on their team, but they do a lot of good stuff with blitzing, keeping offenses, a little just uneasy on their toes, not knowing where things are coming from. Now, Penn State did statistically, their offense dominated Indiana in that first week. And Penn State, I thought personally Penn State won that game. I thought Penix was out.
I did too. I think we talked about that, after it happened. I think that, the way it always looked like to me is that the ball touched the
ball touches out of bounds first.
He has the bottom of the ball is what hits first, and that touches out of bounds. Or even if it doesn't touch out of bounds, it doesn't touch the pylon.
Right.
Even if it did touch inbounds, it's still out. And then the second part of the ball is the top of it, and that's what hits the pylon.
Yeah.
But the bottom part hits first. So
I thought they lost that game to begin with. Statistically, though, Penn State kind of handled them. Now, since then, of course, and we got to take everything Indiana's done with a grain of salt, just kind of like you got to do with Ohio State too. But Ohio State kind of has, the stars, the players on their team that they kind of get the benefit of the doubt with that. Whereas Indiana, you got to kind of take into consideration who they've beaten also. Rutgers was giving them a game in the first half.
Yeah.
They blew the doors off of the state up north because the state up north is just dumpster fire this year. So they're garbage teams, and they beat them down like they were garbage teams. So yeah, I think you got to take a lot into consideration with that. But their defense, they do call a good scheme. They cause a lot of havoc. They cause a lot of turnovers because of that. Running game on like flip side of the ball, running doesn't really bother me because they're not averaging like really much per rush. I think it's like 2.5 yards or something like that.
Yeah, it's 2.7 total. So, and their main back is rushing for 3.6. So that's Stevie Scott.
They're not doing a lot running the ball. Throwing the ball, of course, if Penix has time, Penix can make plays. Penix can make plays with his feet as well. He's a good player. I know he has an awkward delivery. Ryan Day said, though, he's accurate. He gets the ball where it needs to go. He has some zip on it. He can throw a good long ball. So I think it all comes down, and they got some nice pieces receiving the ball too. They have a good tight end. They got some good receivers. So it all depends on getting to the guy. But yeah, I've been fairly impressed with them. They've exceeded expectations.
Yeah. That's how I feel too. So, Penix, kind of going off what you said, his completion is rate just slightly above 60%. So he's not having a horrible year. He's not lighting the world on fire neither.
No, and he's not like a gunslinger either. And you could go different places than just, like what their completion percentage is. If you look at it, he only has 9 touchdown throws, 1,000 yards. So 4 games. It's nothing like crazy.
Yeah. Now to me, his receivers do look kind of impressive. Freifogel here has, he has 4 touchdowns. He's averaging 17.7 yards a reception. Tight ends, which, let's face it, tight ends have given Ohio State fits at different times throughout, the last several years. He's got Hendershot's got 3 touchdowns. Filer and Marshall both have gotten in the mix. So, he seems like he's moving the ball around pretty well.
Oh yeah.
So the receivers, they make me a little bit, because we haven't seen the secondary's full potential yet. That makes me a little bit nervous.
And they're gonna try to test him this week.
Where the running game, I don't feel nervous. It seems like,
No.
He's not doing bad to Stevie Scott. It's just that's not. It just doesn't jump off at you that. Ohio State's always shut down running backs,
and Ohio State shuts down good running backs too that are averaging over 5 yards per carry coming into that game. So that's something. If you're not even at that mark yet, if you're talking like 2.5 yards per carry for your run game, 3.5 for one back. You know what, that could be less than 2 yards per carry total. So because Ohio State, they thrive on run game. So hopefully they don't make me look like an idiot, but I don't have many concerns about stopping the run going.
I just don't see it. And, they haven't really faced a great running back yet this year. This wouldn't be considered a great running back either, but nobody's ran on them yet. So
no, I think your best running back that you've played is probably actually like McCaffrey or Martinez as a quarterback.
Quarterbacks. Now, so their defense does make me a little nervous. They are definitely opportunistic. Their stat numbers are looking pretty good when you, McFadden, their star linebacker. He's 30 total tackles, 2 sacks. They have a guy that Matthews here has 5 pass deflections and an interception. Mullins has 2 pass deflections and 2 interceptions. They're taking the ball away.
It's kind of like that Venables school where you make people uncomfortable. They don't know where blitzes are coming from. That hurries up their passes, and you make opportunity out of them. So, yeah, it's kind of scary, but at least the one thing we know is Justin Fields is not prone to at least the throwing turnovers. And he had a couple fumbles last year, so hopefully we don't look at any of that come Saturday. But it seems like he's cleaned all that up, and he's not prone to handing the ball back to the other team.
To me, nothing here scares me of Indiana, but I think the one thing that they do have, and you can say Michigan crap, Penn State crap, but those are big names. So
yeah,
the one thing Indiana does have a lot of, they got a lot of confidence.
Absolutely.
They beat Michigan, they beat Penn State, and Tom Allen's not giving a crap about those records. He's like, we've beat Michigan, we've beat Penn State, we can go beat Ohio State. So confidence, and in the game of football, confidence could really be used against you if you don't come out strong.
Right.
And Ohio State has done a very good job this year. It's the tale of the two halves. They've done unbelievably in all 3 games in the first half, pretty much. And then, they've slacked a little bit.
Well, in Nebraska, it was kind of like they were getting their footing, and then they kind of
when
they kind of turned it up in the second half. But since then,
it's been lights out. They've blown the doors off both Penn State and Rutgers early in the game.
Right.
So I think that's the biggest thing with Ohio State. I think if Ohio State shows what they've done the first few weeks, and they really, put their foot on the gas early in this game, they can get up by a few scores and then just, play better in the second half. I'm tired of, I'm not saying Indiana is one of those teams that could, if they're down by 4 or 5 touchdowns.
They're not coming back and winning in the second half, and they're down 4 or 5 touchdowns.
Eventually, something like that could bite you in the ass.
Well, right, and I think I said that after the Rutgers game is like eventually, you need to be aware. You need to have your full effort going, but also full awareness and full discipline going as well, because eventually you're going to get a team that they're going to be in one of those games in the second half.
Yeah.
And you're not going to have the luxury of, being able to make mistakes like that, but it's going to be kind of in your back of your mind. You play a 30-minute game. So let's play a full 60 minutes.
And now, I haven't looked at the weather for Columbus on Saturday, but we are now fully into the part of the season where, now you got to start worrying about stuff.
We're 1 week out from Michigan normally.
Yeah. And sometimes what some of those games can be. And and Illinois, we're playing Illinois next week. That's, in Champaign, that's always an interesting environment because of the wind issues they have out there. Today it's very windy here.
Right.
We had a big wind day on Monday. Was it Monday or Sunday? We had the really bad wind.
Sunday.
Yeah.
Sunday was really bad.
So, you're just getting into the time of year where weather happens.
Anything can happen. Yeah.
Saturday we could have a snowstorm.
I think I saw a tornado warning on Sunday.
There was a tornado.
It was in Ashtabula, I think.
So, it's just, you never know what they expect. And I mean, this is Ohio. I mean, you literally can go from thunderstorms and, I think the Browns game, they showed pictures on Sunday. It was thunderstorming and sleeting.
And it was sunny like the next frame.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're just at this time of year. So, I mean, that is something that could work against Ohio State too, if they're not ready for a game.
Yeah.
And that's, we all have those horrible memories of Michigan State from 2015,
that was bad.
Weather games, if you're not ready to play at your potential. Now, a lot of teams say, weather equalizes. I don't believe in that.
I don't think so either.
The better talent team always wins those games. Ohio State's been in some really crappy games over the years
in Champaign, and they've blown the doors off of Illinois.
So it's just that, and they've beat other teams too. I mean, they've been in rainstorms, but when they're not ready to play a game, that's when weather could come in. That's when a confidence like Indiana could come in. I mean, could you imagine? I mean, Tom Allen, just going into recruiting into the future, if he could say, I don't give a crap, because recruits aren't going to look at what Michigan and Penn State's record was.
No, they look that you beat Michigan and Penn State.
If you could go tell your recruits that I knocked off Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State in the same year, I mean, you're a legend.
And I know they're down, but Michigan State also.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're a legend. So,
yeah.
I mean, you can, that is something you could literally go argue with. So Ohio State needs to stay focused. They need to come out. They just need to really hammer them early, get them behind the thing, and then finish it off stronger than they finished off games the last few weeks.
How early into the game before Tom Allen runs a fake punt?
I don't know when he's going to look at
over under trick plays in this game.
God, I hope we don't have a whole nother.
I'm setting at 2.5.
Yeah, there will be trick plays. I mean, he's gonna.
They got to.
He'll throw some stuff out at Ohio State, but I think Tom Allen's also got confidence that he doesn't need to. He wants to. I think his point is, let's stay in this game and let's play our best football. Now, luckily, for Ohio State, I mean, Indiana's strength of their team is going against the best, maybe arguably the best offense in the country.
Yeah.
So.
Well, definitely the strength of Ohio State's team as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's not somewhere, I mean, a team like Indiana, even though Ohio State's talent should still beat Ohio State, or Ohio State should beat Indiana, a defensive team like Indiana, like in say 2016, 2015, where, Ohio State was, didn't have a great identity on offense.
Right. Didn't know what they were doing.
Mean, stuff like that could worry you if you're playing a close game against an Indiana like that.
Tim Beck. Thank you, Tim Beck.
Tim Beck's offenses.
Tim Beck and Ed Warner.
Yeah.
Love you guys.
So, like I said, there's nothing. I'm worried if Ohio State lets them stay in the game. And because that's where a lesser opponent, especially a lesser opponent that does have confidence with them, that if they start getting into this game and be like, you know what, we can beat these guys,
right?
Then, that could be very scary, because that is especially in a situation where there's not gonna be any fans in the stadium. And I mean, there was very little fans to begin with. So there's no home field advantages.
Right. Exactly.
So, I mean, that's a situation where you let a lesser opponent stay in a game, they could knock you off.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably everyone's goal against Ohio State, is shorten the game as much as you can, get to the fourth quarter with a game in hand, which, much easier said than done. But yeah, I agree with you on that. You definitely don't want them to be holding around for much longer. Now, the one thing Indiana that they really have outdone themselves on and strived at this year, or, excelled at, is they've put themselves in position with short fields, and they've scored on those, like we said, a bunch of turnovers. So the one thing, if you're not giving up turnovers, I'm not too concerned on it, because even if Ohio State's having issues moving the ball, do you really see Ohio State having issues moving the ball to the 50 or past the 50 where they can continuously flip the field?
I mean, like, it would be that they're not really focused at all, and the weather is really bad.
And you're gonna see some stuff. You're gonna see some blitzes that are gonna be designed to, keep Ohio State on short yardages on first down, or to get them behind the sticks even. So Indiana's gonna throw some stuff at them. They're gonna throw the kitchen sink at Ohio State, because they believe I think Indiana believes they can win this game.
Yeah.
And like you said, he wins this game. That's like the trifecta in the year. I mean, you go to all the recruits. I don't know if Penn State and Michigan's records gave Indiana any way that they can get in the playoffs, even with beating Ohio State. But I mean, hell, think about it. They play Wisconsin too. What if you could knock off those teams in the East and Wisconsin the same year?
That would be.
Oh my gosh, Indiana's the new Alabama. Like,
yeah, no, that would be interesting. Of course, Tom Allen would be getting a lot of phone calls at that point. I don't know. Hope Indiana could hold him. That's a resume builder.
And I think he'd be getting a better job. I think he might be getting a better job anyways.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about that in the last episode, and I mean, I'm almost to the point like. He wouldn't be my top choice in the Big Ten to take one of those, the two, when we're talking about Michigan and
I don't know.
Penn State. But, and the only reason why he's not my top choice is because I know that who my top choice would be isn't leaving Northwestern. Like, I think Pat Fitzgerald's a better coach than Tom Allen. And I think he's because I still think Northwestern gets even less than Indiana normally does. And he's proven it for a little longer.
Yeah.
And,
he's still done a hell of a job, though.
Oh, yeah. I mean, both those guys,
he's recruited Florida so damn well.
I mean, Fitzgerald ain't leaving Northwestern, but could you imagine, like, just hypothetically, if those two guys, and I know, they're not the splashes necessarily, but if those two guys did decide that we're going to leave, but we're going to stay here in this part of the country, and one of them takes Penn State and one of them takes Michigan, I mean, those teams are better at those moments
immediately
because
they are immediately better
because they're both winners and they're both gamers, and they both have they have something that just, especially in Michigan's point, that's just that they've been lacking for some time. And I know everybody thought that was going to be Harbaugh. Urban Meyer had that. Jim Harbaugh, I mean,
I think they've been lacking that since like 2007.
Yeah. I mean, and Lloyd doesn't scream out at anybody that, this guy is just, a winner. But I mean, Lloyd was a winner, and they've not had that guy up there. And
was a blocked field goal against Appalachian State the death of Michigan?
Could have, might have been. I think, I mean,
I don't care what they've done since. They have not been back.
I mean, I would test the tires. I mean, we'll be talking about them more in a few weeks here, but I would test the tires on Luke Fickell because, do your due diligence. I personally believe he's going to say no. I just think that, I know I've seen some Michigan fans.
Luke's not going to Michigan.
There's some Michigan fans that think he would take the job because Bo took the job. Well, Bo coached for Woody and played for Woody at Miami of Ohio. Like, Luke's from Central Ohio.
He played for Ohio State.
For Ohio State. He's coached now. He's
coached at Ohio State.
He's won a national title at Ohio State.
He was the head coach at Ohio State.
Yeah. And I'm sure. Now, the only thing I would say about Luke, and maybe why I would consider a guy like Tom Allen over him, like if Penn State or, Michigan could get a Luke Fickell to go there, I don't know if they could keep him if Ryan Day got an NFL head coaching job. And I don't think that's ever been
what a kick in the balls that would be for Michigan. You get Luke Fickell and then he leaves you to go to Ohio State.
Like, but I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But
dream jobs are dream jobs.
I mean, we're going on a little bit of a Michigan tangent, but so like I said, I think they're fine against Indiana. I mean, I'll give my score prediction later.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think they're going to beat Indiana. I think they're going to convincingly beat Indiana. I think part of the game is going to be tougher than people want. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of groaning on Twitter afterwards because Indiana's going to score on them. Mm-hmm. They're going to score points.
What if they don't?
If they don't, then I think everybody's going to be really, really happy because I think that a lot of people think some of the issues that some people have been upset about have been fixed at that point.
Yeah.
And honestly, I mean, to Buckeye Nation, I mean, Indiana, this might be until the Big Ten title game. This is probably our last test of the year. I mean, Illinois, I mean,
they suck.
They're not going to lose to Illinois. And Michigan State is awful. And, Michigan lost to that team. So that
has to, I mean, for Michigan State to even have a chance to beat Ohio State, that has to be the absolute worst weather
Yeah.
in East Lansing.
Yeah.
And Michigan, I mean, it don't matter if that's a monsoon or Justin Fields still will be able to throw on those guys.
So I know we got Bedlam this week. I mean, they've, Oklahoma's
kind of back up on the rise though,
Yeah.
but it's just too little too late. I think they'll win that game. I don't know enough about Oklahoma State, so I don't want to put my foot in my mouth, but I think Oklahoma's going to beat them.
I mean, I think they've beat them the last 10 years in a row or something like that. I mean,
They're like
it's something.
Oklahoma State, the last, year that they were really anything was when Tom Herman beat them as the offensive coordinator at Iowa State.
Yeah.
And then they went to some bowl game. Did they beat Stanford? That was the year Ohio State's terrible. That's 11, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's like
Herman comes in the next year.
That's like their last really good year. Oklahoma State's decent. They're not like a terrible team or anything, but that's like their last like really good season.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm thinking Oklahoma's still going to beat them.
I'm trying to think if there's any. I'm going to pull up the top 25. If there's any other decent games this weekend.
USC's playing Utah.
I know USC's playing Utah. I mean, Clemson, Florida State, that used to be considered a good game. Not anymore.
Hey, man, Florida State's going to be back one of these days.
I know it's on a lot of people's radars, but Coastal Carolina, Appalachian State, that's a noon game. I think that one could be very interesting. Appalachian State's 6-1, and Coastal Carolina has been one of the darlings of the year at 7-0. So I think that's actually kind of a. I mean, I know we'll be watching Indiana, Ohio State, and they're both on at noon, but I think that's kind of a game that might be interesting to have on one of the TVs. I think because
that could make the rotation. That could be on one of the TVs.
We'll get into the Big Ten stuff here shortly.
Is Cincinnati playing UCF this week?
Yes. So that could be an interesting one.
That could be interesting because you don't think UCF's going to beat them, but this could be, I don't know. They're still good.
Yeah. So that's, and of course, that seems like that's down in Central Florida. So who knows how many fans they're allowed having in Florida?
Yeah.
They might be allowed having a full stadium. So maybe first true.
I talk a lot of smack about UCF, but I mean they did have a couple magnificent years.
They're still, and they're 5-2. I mean,
they're not bad.
No, I mean
they got they got like 4 good quarterbacks on their team. So
I mean, the thing about UCF, and we talked about this when we did our the Super League and stuff like that. I mean, I believe they're the largest campus now in the country, and I mean, they're a big school. They could actually attract people, go there. And they're very interesting because they could be in my opinion, they could be a Power 5 school that's not in a Power 5 league.
Yeah.
And so that's always interesting.
They threw a championship parade.
I mean, the only ranked games this week, 2 ranked teams are the Northwestern Wisconsin, which we'll get to, and then Bedlam. And Indiana, Ohio State. So it's 2 Big Ten school league games, and then
nothing great.
So this year's been kind of weird. Doesn't it seem like we haven't?
You get the good games get postponed too.
I mean, it just seems like in other years you have your crappy weekends early because usually Ohio State plays one good team and then they play a bunch of, but you get a couple laughers throughout the early in the year. But there's always, once you start getting the season, there's always that one weekend where you get like 4 or 5 games. It seems like that's got ranked
top 25 teams playing each other. Yeah,
and it just we've not really had it this year.
I guess we're just gonna have to be thankful for championship weekends.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it on the on the national side of it. So let's get into the Big Ten stuff. So
all right,
we already know Michigan State and Maryland was canceled. They canceled that. Was that officially done today or was that yesterday?
I feel like it was officially announced on today, Thursday. So.
Okay. So the first game of the week will be tomorrow, Friday the 20th. 2-1 Purdue, 1-3 Minnesota. Purdue is only a 2.5 point favorite, which seems like that should be more.
Yeah.
How bad?
Were there a lot of injuries or something? I saw that too. So Purdue's going to absolutely destroy Minnesota tomorrow. Minnesota beats nobody except Illinois, who's garbage. So I expect Purdue to beat them by at least 3 scores tomorrow.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was feeling too. I mean, think
I don't care where they're playing football at.
like
Unless unless half their team's missing tomorrow, and I don't realize that right now,
and
they're gonna kill them.
I mean, there is no home field advantage for anybody in the Big Ten, so I don't care if that game's in Minnesota.
I don't like Minnesota. They were supposed to win their side of the conference for me. They crapped the bed. They're losing to Purdue.
Now, granted, where maybe this is a close game, and again, I haven't checked the weather. I don't know what I think it's in Minneapolis. I don't know what the weather's supposed to look like.
Yeah, but Minnesota does have a really good running back.
Yeah, and it's just, but the point is just that it could be a close game just because. I mean,
yeah,
it is Minnesota. We are getting into late November.
That's true.
I mean, it is an outdoor stadium.
Yeah, we might actually get some snow tomorrow. I don't know.
Yeah, so
it was snowing pretty bad over like there last year for the Wisconsin game. That might have been the last week of the season, but it was right around this time.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know with that one. So I mean, I'm with you. I think Purdue pretty much handles them, but again, we'll see. I think they're much better than a 2.5 point favorite. I mean, I
would think so. Minnesota's been terrible.
I've watched a couple Minnesota games this year, and there's nothing been impressed.
Well, they beat the crap out of Illinois, but Illinois sucks.
I didn't watch that one because I didn't really care.
Right.
So Michigan State, Maryland canceled. So the next noon game is Illinois, Nebraska. Nebraska's 15.5 point favorite. Nebraska coming off a big
Nebraska. I think they'll cover that.
Yeah. I know they beat Penn State, but again, it's a confidence building game because you beat Penn State. And
yeah.
When people look back on stuff like that, it's just names that matter. I mean, I don't know how good, I mean, like 1987 Indiana. I don't know how good Ohio State and Michigan were that year. The only thing that people care about is that Indiana somehow beat both Ohio State and Michigan in the same season. So, yeah, I
think Nebraska's I think they'll win.
Yeah, I think they'll win too. I think they'll win handedly. All right, so we'll save this 3:30 game. We'll save Wisconsin Northwestern until the end.
Okay,
right before us. So 3:30, 2-2 Iowa at 0-4 Penn State.
See, I really thought Penn State, this was going to be their week to do it, but
Iowa is a 2.5 point favorite.
I think Iowa will beat them. I think they'll cover 2.5. I think Penn State's going to be 0-5.
Yeah,
I really do.
Yeah, I
mean, I know Iowa hasn't been great this year, but when they got going, they beat up teams like who was it? I know Michigan State was one, and then they did fairly well last week. Was that did they play Minnesota? Did they beat up Minnesota too?
I want to say they did.
So I think Iowa's going to beat Penn State. I do.
I think I'm gonna go with Penn State gets their first win. I don't know. I think they'll beat them. I mean, they have to win a game.
It very well could happen.
I mean, they should, like we were talking about the other day when we were talking about just how disappointing, them in Michigan have been. They have talent on that team. Like, there's no way this should be possible that they shouldn't have won a game yet. So I think they will strike gold and they'll at least get a win heading into Michigan for next week.
Yeah, I mean, it's very possible.
Speaking of the Wolves, they are only a 7.5 point favorite on Rutgers. How's that possible?
Is this in Piscataway? It is, isn't it?
Yeah, it seems like it is. So it's a night game, 7:30. Rutgers, the only night games they get a lot. I think they get a lot of night games just because they're always the crap game that BTN gets.
Yeah,
I think they probably get Rutgers more than any other team because that's.
I'm gonna say something real insulting right now. They're not going to cover against Rutgers. They might win, but they're not going to win by more than a touchdown. And Rutgers might win this game outright.
I don't know. I mean, the problem with Rutgers is the only really game I got to really watch a lot of it was when they played the Buckeyes, and they ran so much freaking just crap in the second half.
They didn't really have an identity. It didn't seem like they were strong anywhere, but is Michigan's defense strong anywhere?
No. And honestly, I don't know what's worse.
They suck.
Like you would think that, like, I honestly think maybe their defense is worse than their offense, and you would not think that.
Is their offense strong anywhere?
They're not.
So I don't Yeah, I don't know. They're not going to win by more than 7.5, but Rutgers might win this game outright.
I'm going to pick Michigan. I think they will cover. I'm going with that 10 to 14 point range. So I don't think it's going to be anything impressive necessarily. I think they might pull, a couple scores out at the end, make it look a little worse than it really is.
I hope Shiano beats them on a trick play.
That would be great. So I look forward to talking about that.
Yes.
Awesome Penn State Michigan game we're going to be getting next week. So
I don't even, one of them is going to just like destroy the other one.
And you know what?
Penn State's just going to kick Michigan's ass or vice versa.
And you know what the Big Ten was thinking when they're doing that schedule, when they're finishing this final schedule, our third schedule that we've had, they're like, well, we can't have Ohio State, Michigan, Thanksgiving weekend. But you know what? We can do Penn State, Michigan. Oh my, that's a big noon kickoff.
All these people that bitched about how easy Ohio State's schedule was, it turned out the entire Big Ten just sucked ass this year. Everyone had an easy schedule that should have.
Yeah. I think Michigan will win, but I don't think they're going to look anything impressive. If it was any other team right now in the Big Ten over Rutgers, I might actually pick the other team. So,
yeah.
So before we get into our, three things and our score prediction. So Wisconsin, Northwestern, both are undefeated. Of course, Wisconsin's only 2-0 because they've had less games. They're a 7.5 point favorite. And I've been pretty impressed with Northwestern. I don't know if I would give Wisconsin a 7.5 point edge on this one.
I haven't watched enough Northwestern, but it seems like they've controlled the games that they've played pretty much. So pretty easily. Now, Wisconsin just blew the doors off of the two teams they played. So, this game could get sideways for Northwestern, but they usually don't let games get that out of hand, especially when they're looking like they're good. So, I'm going to take Northwestern on this.
I think I'm leaning that way too. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's only going to be 3 to 7 points.
And Graham Mertz, he's good.
Oh yeah,
but he's inexperienced. And Pat Fitzgerald is not inexperienced.
And I think Northwestern, I think they've played a couple better opponents. Wisconsin, you can't say anything. You've played Illinois and Michigan. You beat the crap out of Michigan. Well, Indiana beat the crap out of Michigan. Michigan State
was beating the crap out of Michigan.
They controlled most of that game. Michigan's glory was thinking that they beat a good Minnesota team. So, who might not win another game this year.
That makes me happy, actually, that was their win.
So, yeah, I'm going with you on this one. I think it'll be a close game, but I think that's 7.5 points. That's just, and this is ESPN's what they have on their thing. So I think that's too much for this game. Even if I was going to say Wisconsin was going to win it, I don't think it would be more than by a touchdown.
I don't think so either.
So I think it actually will be a good game. I think this will actually, out of the two Big Ten games, this will be the better of the two games.
Yeah.
So I look forward to watching this one
now,
at 3:30.
If Wisconsin does blow them out, are we like, whoa, hold on now?
No, Wisconsin's done this before though, where they've blown the doors off of teams and everybody thinks Wisconsin's unbeatable. And I'm not going to go down there. I don't think Fitzgerald's team's going to get blown out in this game.
No.
So I respect him as a coach, and I respect the team he's built. They got a good team. They got a good quarterback. They got some good players around them. At
the end of the day, Wisconsin, they still got to play someone indoors.
Yeah. Yeah. And
hopefully it's not us.
So Ohio State, Indiana. Buckeyes are home. Like we said, home games don't matter.
Don't really matter. No advantage this year.
Really not going to matter because there's not going to even be parents in the stands.
I don't think it's like the old Boston Garden that there's like dead spots on the field or something that you have some advantage by knowing the court or the field. It's just
you're going to be playing in this empty cathedral where you can hear the echoes of people, calling out plays and stuff like that.
You can't have a couple hundred people in a stadium that seats 110,000. That makes sense.
Yeah. And you really gotta I'm not accusing anybody of being the New England Patriots or anybody, but in a situation with how big Ohio Stadium is, and you just gotta imagine how sound can carry in there when there's no fans. Like you could have like one of those parabolic things, like you'd be listening to the other sideline.
I hope we don't have to like forfeit a national title this year because we're spying on the other team. But
so let's get into our three things. So your thing on offense, what do you think what do you need to see on the Buckeyes offensively to win this game?
I think I need to see the interior line be ready for some awkward blitzes that are trying to overload gaps. Because that seems to be kind of where they've had issues this year, is coming right up the middle, that defenses are trying to overload them there. So I got to kind of see how they do with that. As far as running, I think we'll be able to run on them. As far as passing, I think we'll be able to pass on them just fine. So mine, it's not going to be anything skilled. It's just going to be the offensive line, seeing how they pick up the blitz in the interior.
Yeah. For me, I just think they just got to kind of keep doing what they're doing. It's just, don't overcomplicate it. You got so much more better talent than they do. You get Justice Fields. You got,
as long as you can keep, the longer you can keep your running game vanilla, the better.
You got arguably the best receiving core in the country, and Master Teague, Trey Sermon to a point, they've sparked at different times. So just do what you're doing and just take them seriously and go score points.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree.
Defense. So what do you think on the defense? What do they need to do?
They got to stop the pass.
Yeah.
They gotta play man defense. They gotta play how they did last year. You gotta stop the pass. If Hendershot gets his, he gets his, but you gotta stop Freifogel.
Yeah, agree with that. That's how I was doing. Wade's going to be on him. So Sean's gotten beat a couple times this year. I know he had some spectacular catches made against him as well. But I think he's the one thing that I'm a little nervous about Wade, what I've noticed and kind of rewatching the things, I think he's kind of giving maybe a little too much more space than I think. And
who was it? Nate Clements? Was that it back in the day that he wanted the big pick so he would play off the ball?
I want these guys. I mean, you got such physical corners,
big guys too.
Get up on them and just out muscle.
Hard press man, exactly. Yeah, so that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for Sean Wade especially, but both of those cornerbacks, time to play some really like big time cornerback press man football.
Yeah, and Indiana, like how we were talking about earlier, the receivers have impressed me so far. So I would say that is going to be the challenge. And when it comes to that, I agree. I'm going with the passing game as you did, that, shut these guys down. And, I want to see the defensive line just continue to progress, because I think they are one of the best. When I've seen the last few weeks, they're one of the best defensive lines in the country.
Yeah.
And that could really help your secondary out. Get the Penix, put him on his butt, and get him thinking.
Oh yeah, if you get him moving around. He's got a good arm on the run. Like he delivers a good ball on the run. But I think if you're getting a lot of pressure with him with your defensive line, and those cornerbacks can stay up in the face of those receivers on the outside, that's a recipe for success.
Yeah. All right. So you're one player that whether it's needs to improve, needs to be the breakout player, just needs to be the superstar. I mean, who's your one player for this game that just you want to see to be the difference maker that needs to do something?
I can't believe I'm doing this because I'm kind of going away from like skilled players, but going to go back to what I said originally is I think it's got to be Harry Miller. He had a rough game.
Yeah, he did have a rough game.
So come out there. And like I said, they're going to try to overload the gap. They're going to try to confuse him and Josh Myers, try to get a lot of pressure up the middle. They're going to try to do that early to blow up our runs. They're going to try to do that to get to Justin Fields on passing down. So be ready for that. Don't hold. Just play sound football. Do what you can. And just trust those guys next to you. And I think he'll be fine. But he's the one I'm looking for after last week's performance. And a lot of that pressure has come up the middle this year. I'm looking for him to, start solidifying himself as that starting left guard.
Yeah. And, Indiana with their defense, he's probably the guy that
he's the target.
I mean, if I'm the defensive coordinator, if I'm Tom Allen for Indiana, he's the guy I've already circled. That's where I'm going to bring my exotic stuff at.
Right.
him.
And he has to understand that he is going to, unless like you got some mastermind like Venables, the defensive guru that is just seeing some like deficiency in Nicholas Petit-Frere that none of us see, which he doesn't have. But
No.
you know what I'm saying, that Harry Miller is going to be that target. He's going to be the guy circled for the rest of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So he's got to get used to it. And I know it's tough. I mean, you and I have seen that's like Taylor Decker, like from one year to the next. I mean, that was a completely different guy from 13 to 14. It's that's how it happens sometimes. So you got to get in the games and you got to learn to play, you got to learn how to play at that college speed. But
I mean, even things, the couple times that MPF got in towards the end of last year, there was some things that I questioned, is he ready for this? And he looks like he's,
question it now.
Nobody's getting by him. So,
who really impresses me, if you haven't watched it, it's not offensive line. Watch how well Master T can pick up a blitz though. And just his support on.
I've noticed that, blocking. And that's a big deal. They stress that so much at Ohio State,
and that might be why Sermon's not getting more touches.
Yeah, and that's actually to segue into it. That's the guy that for my one player, it's Master, and the reason why it's Master, he seems like he's the guy that's getting the first touches. So it's time for one of these guys to take this ball. I know you've talked about you want to see a bellwether, a bell cow back. He's the guy that's getting the first opportunities at it, so he needs to take it. And I think that he's looked better than the first week, but he's still obviously he's still coming off the Achilles. But I want him to take it now, and I want him to have a great game. I'm not too worried about him breaking tackles or making cutback blocks and going for another 15, 20 yards.
Yeah.
Get your 5 to 8 yards on your run and do it hard.
Well, that's the thing. Master T turns 4 yards into the 6 yards.
And just make it hard. Don't go down easy. Make those, if they're going to tackle you and you're not going to make a cutback, make them feel it. And, and that will wear teams down. And just, I want him just to take it. I want him to be the man, and I want us to be able to ride him in fourth quarters of games. Cause that's the one thing, if Ryan Day is going to coach the way he seems like he wants to coach second halves, that he okay with being a little bit more conservative. Well, you need a guy like Master T.
But he does help control the clock in the second half too.
I just want him to keep just breaking these guys down. And,
you think he can go for over $130?
I want him, I want to keep progressing. So I would say that the $130 to $150 range.
I think 150 yards is realistic for him this week.
That's what I want him at. And, and I think if he gets there, I'm fine if he doesn't get to 200 yards or to 165, 170 yards. If he can consistently run between 130 and 150 yards, and at that point, that they're going to go for 250 yards, close to 250 yards a game, because you're still going to get Sermon's still going to come in and get runs. Steele will probably come in and get runs. Fields will take
Fields will start running more as the competition. I mean, when it does get harder.
Yeah. So at that point, if you can get one of the, you can get him to 150. You'll find that other 180 to 100 that they need to be a
real balance,
a balanced football team. You'll get that from the other spots.
Now, in saying that he doesn't do it, all on like 3 runs or anything like that, which I don't think Master has that in his arsenal. But if Master Teague runs for 150 yards, can Ohio State lose that game?
No,
I don't think they can.
No.
I mean, if that guy goes for 150 yards, I think that any team we play, I think that's a win. And that might be a little over the top, but I honestly believe so.
With our offense, I think as long as your running back gets to 100 yards, you're in
really good shape.
You're in good shape.
Really good shape.
Teague's gotten there the last 2 weeks, right? He got there against Rutgers too.
I don't know about that. I don't think he did. No, he didn't get there against Rutgers.
No, maybe not.
They didn't get enough touches in between them. Who would be feasting on the defenses, though, that have been called up against Ohio State this year to stop the run? J.K. Dobbins. how everyone's just overloading those gaps. He'd have that wide open lane to run up.
Yeah.
His quick cutback. Yeah. JK would just be feasting on teams.
They'd be calling a different defenses against him.
I know, but he would feast. Yeah.
So
that's one of the best running backs we've ever seen.
Like as with Teague, just make the guys pay for it, man. If they're gonna get you down after 5-6 yards, well, make it hurt.
Yeah.
And I think he's the type of back that can't do that. And I just want him to start. I mean, he runs with authority at times. He just needs to start doing it a little bit more. And if he does that, then I think they're fine with the running game.
I think he's going to be fine. I mean, he has a big injury that he's coming off of.
Oh, definitely. I mean, and that's the thing too. It's not an easy injury. I mean, we've seen with other guys. I mean, I know I'm one of the guys I really like to bust Tough's chops, and stuff like that.
Tough is still paying for his ruptured Achilles,
but he's looked much better this year than he's
a good player.
So
Tough is a good middle linebacker. He might be, too slow to ever really make an impact in the NFL, but he's not too slow to make an impact in college.
Now here's the thing. So we're going to go score predictions.
Okay.
Ohio State's a 20.5-point favorite. And I hate when they do that because that's what everybody judges them against is like, well, they said they were a 20.5-point favorite. And now my score is right there. Okay. I want to hear what your score is first. So what are you thinking?
So the whole week I was thinking it's going to be something like 45-27 that they're not going to cover. And then as I just think about it more, just where the weight of this game is, I just think we have so many advantages and they're going to get a harsh reality of the competition that they've played so far. So I'm going to give Ohio State a couple more points. I'm going to say 55, but I'll give 27 to Indiana. So I will say Ohio State's going to cover the spread.
I think so. Going on just strictly the spread, I don't think that they're going to cover because I have it at 41-21.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think Indiana, I do think they're good. I think the competition is what's going to be, it's just going to be a shell shocker. I think Ohio State is going to go up on them like they've done this year on teams. I between sloppiness in the second half, I think their heads are going to start going up. I mean, because until they prove that they can, I'm just going to assume that.
So you don't have confidence that Ohio State's shut down for 60 minutes yet.
Not yet. They have to prove it to me. If they come out and they win this game 41-45-10, because it's where some of these scores should be. I mean, Penn State and Rutgers, I mean, they shouldn't have got to 14 points, I mean.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, if they would have played the second half like they played the first half, I mean, those are just embarrassments of those games.
Now, do you think we get to a point that we start saying, oh my gosh, this is 2018 all over again? Or is the offense or defense playing well enough in the first half that you don't have that fear?
There was a lot of issues with defense.
And it was all game long too.
All game against, I mean, the issues that the defense is having is just mental issues of not, they're ready to go home.
How many 80+ yard touchdowns could you see in one season?
I don't know.
That was the worst that year.
We haven't seen that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, our defense, I know like some people want to put their blinders on. Our defense has played very good in the first half of these.
They have,
I mean, there was a little questionable against, I mean, they had those two good drives.
Nebraska? Well, Nebraska also, I don't think they expected a quarterback to run off tackle the second play of the game or whatever it was.
Yeah. So I just think that, but I mean, they've really shut down Penn State. And I mean, Clifford was running for his life. Again.
Yeah.
And, I mean, and that quarterback for Rutgers, I mean, he didn't do anything.
He didn't do anything.
I mean, he was running for
Tyler
his
Friday
life.
killed the man.
Yeah. So
brought him back, but he killed him.
So, no, I think, I really think this is going to be kind of like a 28-31, to 10 or to 7, because I said 21. So I think it's going to be like a 31-7 first half.
Yeah.
And then, they're going to give up 2 touchdowns. and they're only going to score 10 more points, and everybody's going, well, Indiana beat them 14-10 in the second half, and because then you're going to hear that, and so until they prove, and I hope this is the week. I hope that because they had the bye week,
I think they were ready for Maryland.
And, now there's going to be a lot of people talking. I mean, there probably is a lot of people have probably said, I mean, I'm sure Desmond is going to come up with his crazy, well, Indiana's going to knock them off. And I'm sure we'll get stuff like that.
Oh, he better not.
And so I hope this is the game. And I'll start believing that they're just that killer defense when I see them be it. And that's just, all this is just keep focused in the second half of a game, and their offense kind of drifts too. It's not just the defense. It's, they get to a point, and it's probably because there's no fans in these stadiums. So I can only imagine what 18 to 21 year olds are just like, their minds are just drifting. Like, I want to go home.
Right. And I have no room to critique Ryan Day's play calling or anything like that. I know what he was trying to do in that second half against Rutgers to keep the guys going, and he wanted one more touchdown for Justin, but man, get those starters out of the game.
Yeah. So I think it's a good feel. It's I think both good points. I hope it's, even though I hope that's less than 27, I hope we see a game like what you're saying. I would love to see them get into the 50s against Indiana, because then that means they've offensively, at least they played a full game.
Yeah.
And, because honestly, that's where they should be. And I think if there was fans in the stadium, if this wasn't just a weird year, that's where I think they would be right now, because I just think there's a lot of other side factors that they're letting get to them. And so
very well could be.
I mean, football is a game of emotions, and it's just, even away games, you like beating up on teams in front of their away fans. So,
some people love to get booed.
Yeah, and it's like, they love being cheered. They love watching people cry. I mean, that's, like I said, football is a game of emotions.
And I mean, there's another side to it also. Like, how much you going to risk yourself getting hurt out there when you have a game in hand?
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, I think
not that that's a good excuse. Play hard for 60 minutes.
Yeah. So I think we'll call that a night. So just want to remind everybody to subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the all notifications, like the video, comment on the video. Same thing with the podcast networks. As we said at the beginning of the show, we're now also on iHeart and Pandora. That goes with Apple, Stitcher, Google, a couple all the other big ones, and Spotify. So whatever those podcast providers is your choice that you listen to your podcast, check us out, subscribe to the show, and listen to us on those also. And remember to follow us on all of our social media feeds on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And so we will sign off for the night.
All right. For my Hoban fans out there, go Tigers. Thank you all for coming out to the Buckeye Bar tonight. I'm John.
And I'm Mike.
OHIO.
Well, thank you for watching here, the Buckeye Bar guys, here on the Buckeye Bar Talk network. Please subscribe to the network, and when you get the little notification bell, just hit that. Hit all notifications. That way you will get alerted when all the new episodes come up. Comment, like the show, and we hope you join our community. Come join our bar.
Like, comment, share. I'm John. That's Mike. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you.